Hello, and welcome to another post from Dr. Blake's Healing Soul. This is another part of the normal sesamoid injury examination, but also includes examination for other problems around the big toe joint. This is an exam where we're looking at the metatarsal alignment. Now, if you have a sesamoid that's more plantar prominent or more sticks out further to the ground, it's called a plantar flex first ray. If you have one that's more dorsiflex than the other metatarsals 2 through 5, then it's called a metatarsus primus elevatus or a dorsiflex first ray. So the examination is simply to grab the second metatarsal and stabilize it, and then with the two thumbs parallel with each other, grabbing the big toe, the first metatarsal, and moving it in relationship to the second. And you can see here, if I do this correctly, that we have a patient with a plantar flex first ray, that I really can't even get the first metatarsal to the plane of the second. It's important to really make sure you stabilize that second metatarsal so it doesn't move, so you have a good reference point, and make sure that the thumbs are parallel. So I've got a diagram here that shows these three components. Here's a diagram of a plantar flex first ray, and you can see how this metatarsal alignment would require a lot more dancer's padding to take the pressure off the big toe joint. Here's the more neutral, where the big toe is a little lower, but it has good range of motion both up and down in relationship to the second. And here's a patient with the first metatarsal dorsiflexed. You could also call this a collapsed metatarsal arch, where the second and third metatarsals have dropped down. I will talk more in other videos on this, but I think this gives you a good idea of that when you're examining for sesamoid injuries, you really need to know the alignment of the first metatarsal so that you have a clear view of how much dancer's padding to off-weight the big toe joint is going to be necessary. Thank you, and I appreciate your attention. Hello, welcome to another post from Dr. Blake's Healing Soul. Today I'm going to start a discussion on sesamoid evaluation. One of the key aspects of evaluating a foot when they have sesamoid pain and big toe joint pain is whether they have what we call functional hallux limitus. That means the big toe joint is jammed against the ground when the foot's in its most pronated position while standing. So you have the patient stand with full body weight and you attempt to move the big toe joint with fairly normal force. If they cannot move that, then there's a potential that it's jammed. You then tell the patient to move the foot up into sort of a normal arch, not too high off the ground, where you would imagine an arch support in there. Then you would see if the joint is freed up. And in this case, it is. So when you have a patient who has pain in the big toe joint, particularly the sesamoid, check for functional hallux limitus, and that means that patient is a candidate for some form of arch support to free up that joint, and that will help in the overall rehabilitation. Thank you. Hello, and welcome to another post from Dr. Blake's Healing Soul. Today I'm going to show part 3 of my sesamoid evaluation. Now you have two sesamoids underneath your big toe joint. One is right on the outside, and that's called the tibial or medial sesamoid. So you're palpating that for soreness. The second one is closer to the second toe, and that's called the fibular or the lateral sesamoid. And so you're palpating that one. You're also palpating the soft tissue to sort of get a feel of how much swelling there is, and always compare it to the other side. So if one foot hardly feels like there's any swelling, but the other side can give you a clue that there really is more swelling than you thought. Then you're going to test the range of motion. You're going to move the toe up and back and see if it has pretty normal range of motion. And it shouldn't hurt in a normal joint when you do that. The last is you're going to contract have the patient contract the two tendons that go through to see if there's any involvement in the tendon. So the first one is where you have the patient curl the big toe down, and then you put resistance against that, and you try to see if the long flexor, which is called the flexor hallucis longus, has any pain. The second one is where you have the patient just pull the toe down without bending it, and that gets the short flexor called the flexor hallucis brevis, and that's the one that goes through the sesamoid. So you have them just pull it straight down, and then you put resistance against it to see if you can elicit pain. So the three areas of pain that we're going to try to elicit is palpation of the sesamoids, both tibial and fibular. See if there's any pain on maximum flexion or maximum extension, and then see if there's any pain on contraction of the long flexor or the short flexor. And all those give you clues on what's going on with the joint. Thank you, and I hope this helps with your sesamoid evaluation. Hello, welcome to another post from Dr. Blake's Healing Soul. Today we're going to demonstrate how to apply a dancer's pad. So if you have sesamoiditis, sesamoid fracture, or any pain in your big toe joint, you're going to want to know how to do a dancer's pad. So here Pat's demonstrating in her modern dance shoe how to apply the dancer's pad to the insole of the shoe. So she takes out the insole and she's going to cut some adhesive felt up that's 1/8 inch thick. You can buy this from www.moremedical.com. Go under adhesive felt, and they'll sell you about 7 or 8 feet for about $20. So it's relatively inexpensive. So she's going to now find the area where the ball of the foot is. So that's the area we want to protect, and we're going to want to put pressure to the lateral side of that, or under the 2nd through the 5th toes. So Pat will cut about a 3-inch piece of the adhesive felt. And then she's going to cut that in half. She's turned the insole upside down. And she's then going to, after peeling off the adhesive, apply it under the ball of the foot, under the 2nd through 5th metatarsals. So where you're going to off-weight the big toe joint. And then we're not going to demonstrate this, but then you'd put that in your shoe. If it felt like it needed a little bit more, then of course first you trim off the excess. Then Pat's going to put a second layer on using the other half of your cut. And the second layer should be staggered, so a little bit more lateral or towards the 5th toe, a little bit shorter, and just so it's not as abrupt a change. And again, she's going to cut off the excess. She's going to try it again in her shoe. Now, if it feels like it takes the weight off and doesn't throw you into the hole, then that's fine. If it feels like actually it actually is creating a hole there where your foot is falling into it, then you have to thin out that second layer. So because it's adhesive felt, you can take the layer and you can thin out a half of it or a third of it or a quarter of it. You can get really good at peeling off. Here Pat's peeling about 3/8 of it, or 3/2 of it. Okay, so we have like a layer and a quarter now. Okay, now another part is the part closest to the arch. So a lot of people will use that. She'll take another piece now and just cut a little square, and that's going to go just behind the ball of the foot. It's a little offset. Yeah, somewhere in there. You can play with that. You don't want it to be too bulky where it interrupts the big toe joint from pushing down, but it can help in taking the pressure off the sesamoid from that direction. And the last piece is called the Cliffy Wedge. This is actually applied to the foot, so it's another even smaller piece that's going to go on your foot just in front of the sesamoids. So on Pat's foot, we've marked where you'd put the Cliffy Wedge. So I've marked where the sesamoids are and where the Cliffy Wedge should go, and then you apply that right under that. And I do have people who will put several layers of Cliffy Wedge on there. And that little piece can make a huge difference. So thank you, and I hope this is very helpful in helping you design your own dancer's pads. Thank you very much.